Our invocation, like everyone, if you could just stand up and meet your neighbors and your guests on your table, and then we'll get the show on the road here in a second. Oh, yeah. Okay, everyone, let's take a seat, and I can have Mary Bishop come up, and we'll do our invocation and our pledge. So everyone take a seat. Actually, stand up. We'll do the invocation and the pledge.
It's great to hear all the chatter in the room and the fellowship, and I think that's why Fridays are so special, just to be with each of you. All right, so are there any concerns today that you'd like for us to raise in prayer? Yes.
We lost a good friend, former Rotarian with my old club.
Okay.
Sally Bright.
Sally Bright.
She has been, did so much for Rotary. She and Tom Bright, keep them in your prayers.
Okay. Tom and her first name? Sally Bright. Yes, Daniel.
I think everyone's aware of the Mullen family and the car accident last Sunday, and a lot of us, our children were very close to the kids, or actually got caught in the traffic going back to Colorado. It was just a terrible accident. So
Yeah, terrible accident of a family, Park City's family, coming back from Colorado. I think it was in Vernon, that area.
Past
Fast,
Amarillo. The car went across the highway, hit them, they flipped, and the daughter was put in the bar.
Yeah, it's a lot of mourning in our community. The Mullins family. Any other prayer requests? Well, let's go to the Lord in prayer. Let's each of us take a deep breath and relax into the moment. Father, thank you for this moment in time. You know each of our hearts. You created us. You created this world. We thank you for the rain and the filling up of the tanks and the crops that will benefit from this, and for our state. Thank you for the leadership that you have provided for us in this club. For our president and our future president, we lift up all the officers and give them wisdom and guidance. Father, we praise you for our good health, for our well-being, for our resources. We give all honor and glory to you for what you've done to us and for us. Now, Father, we lift up those that are in mourning, whether it be close friends, our Rotarian friends, his family, the Mullins. We know that you are always present, ever present with us, that you count the hairs on our head, you know us well. So, Father, we thank you and praise you for this time together, for the food we're about to receive. We give you honor and glory. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Say, can you say, Babylon's early light, what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose stars and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thanks, Mary. And now it's time for Happy Bucks. So if you have a Happy Buck request, see Richard, and he will hear what you have to be happy about. Happy Bucks, anybody? I know Happy's not standing up because her Raiders lost last night and destroyed everyone's bracket, but I won't talk about that anymore. Any Happy Bucks? No Happy Bucks. Okay. It's whatever you want to provide. 50.
It's there someplace. Oh, that's Here you go. My happy bucks is the fact that I get to introduce my son.
There you go.
I want to celebrate Dr. Roy Washburn being here 2 sessions in a row.
2 weeks in a row. Any others? Okay. Guest. Who has guests today? Here we go.
I'm really thrilled to introduce Morgan here, a longtime friend of mine. She is the owner of ARICLEA, and owner and president of ARICLEA, a fabulous skincare company that is used by dermatologist, and then she's president of the AIRS Foundation. So I look forward to having y'all visit with her. She's really fantastic. She's really a fantastic skincare expert. You'll want to ask her great questions.
Thank you. Welcome.
Vanessa Bovis is back with us today. She's a friend, a longtime friend of mine and Happy's both, and she's with Insperity. So please say hi to her if you haven't met her yet.
Welcome. Any others? Okay, great. Mark, you're back up here. Marketplace advertiser. So whose bracket's still intact? Anyone? Seriously. I mean, how many tears were shed last? I mean, just silly.
I'm ready. Okay. Our marketplace advertiser today is Kyle Marmillion. I don't think I've seen him yet. I'm not sure if he's here or not, but we're going to recognize him. He enjoys volunteering in the community, obviously, coaching youth lacrosse, traveling, playing golf, and building his career in financial services. He's a business insurance advisor with McGriff. When it comes to protecting their clients' most valuable assets, they believe they should never settle for less than the best. So through expertise, resources, and relationships, they deliver solutions that exceed expectations. There are 4 core principles in McGriff is integrity, determination, passion, and collaboration. If there's anything that falls outside of those principles, Kyle simply applies Rotary's 4-way test as he navigates these situations, securing the best results for owners, C-suite, and council. So please join me in thanking Kyle for his support of the club and being a marketplace advertiser.
Thank you, Kyle, and thank you, Mark.
We do still have a couple of spots left. If you're interested in joining as a marketplace advertiser, we do prorate the fee as we go through the calendar year. But there's still a chance to get recognized at least once before this Rotary year ends. And so if you're interested, just come see me. Thanks.
Thanks, Mark. And now this is always fun. We have a new member speech today, Mary MacLeod. Will come up and do her speech.
Good afternoon. I'm Marianne MacLeod, and I've been attending. Okay, for about a year here. I'm 81 years old, and I have a daughter and a granddaughter who's 10 years old. I've had so many jobs in my life that it's kind of hard to narrow it down, but I tried to hit some interesting points. My first full-time job, I drove the monorail at Disneyland. And I was the only female on the team. And it was a great experience. And that was in the 1960s. And Walt Disney was still very active at Disneyland. And he personally owned the trains. So he came around and checked on us a lot. So I had the opportunity to occasionally visit with him and get to know him a little bit. And that was very interesting. In the next years after that, I had a chance to live and work in Germany. I worked on a military base. It was an army base, Karlsruhe Post, and I ran the post nursery school there, which was quite an experience. I think it made me decide not to have children for a while. My daughter's father was an Air Force pilot, so we spent about 8 years in the military. And when we were at Shepherd Air Force Base, through the Officers' Wives Club, I had a job where it wasn't really a job. I got to go to a lot of events and clubs in the area. And I really enjoyed meeting all of the people that I met in the town. And then I wrote about this in the Shepherd Air Force Base newspaper. Later, when we were based at Carswell, I drove into Weatherford a lot, and I fell in love with that little town. It was a lot different and a lot smaller 40 years ago. And I found a restaurant that was closed and for sale. And I had always loved tea rooms, and so this was a perfect opportunity for me, and I bought this and opened Out to Lunch. I ran that for several years, but during that time I also bought and renovated an 1889 building and opened a sandwich shop and ice cream parlor. And during the time that I was running these, my husband went and was hired by United Airlines. So we had the opportunity to travel and see the world, and we both really enjoyed that. And later I heard that American Airlines was hiring older flight attendants, and I thought, that's me. So I applied with them and was hired, and I began my 30-year career with them. I retired a year ago from my most interesting and happiest job and started building a new life. After Kathy Allred moved to the Dallas area, she invited me to join Rotary, and she took me to several clubs in the area, and I felt that this was the most varied and had the most activities, so I decided to attend here. I went on a Rotary cruise in the spring of last year, and we went to Roatan and Honduras and Puerto Costa Maya. And also in October of last year, I went to Portugal and spent a week there, really enjoyed that. And in August, I'm going on a bike and barge tour in Germany, Luxembourg, and France. So my life still involves travel. I think it always will. I thank you all for inviting me to your club. I really enjoyed meeting all of you, and I like working with you. So I thank you.
Marianne, thank you very much. We're so glad to have you on our club. And man, 30 years as a top flight attendant American. That's amazing. Gosh. A few announcements. We have PCRConnect on the 28th, and that's at the Rye Restaurant, starting at 5 o'clock. Also the March Madness on the 30th at Over Under Sports Bar, which, again, I'm out of that. Let's see, Dallas Crawfish Festival on the April 6th. April 13th, we have the district conference at Buffalo Creek, and they've extended again the registration for this if you have any interest in going. It should be fun. I know that I think myself, Nolan will be there, and a few others. I know Mark will be there. Happy will be there. And then we have on April 22nd, we have the program committee meeting. That has changed because we were scheduled for the 15th, but there was a conflict with Ronald McDonald House. So if you had that on your calendar, please note that the program meeting at the YMCA, Park Cities YMCA, will be on the 22nd. We'll have pizza, and that's from 6 to 8. And if any questions, see Richard or Jeff Brady. And then the 20th of April, North Texas Food Packing Day, starting at 9, and then the Rough Riders baseball game. So we have a lot of stuff on our schedule. That's on the 26th. A lot of stuff on our schedule. So if you want to get involved or have some fun, just sign on up. Now, Patty Schaub, we're going to do the raffle, and we're going to have Dan, our guest speaker, pull the winning ticket out for whoever has it. And the pot is $1,137 at this point. So if you have this winning ticket, you have a chance if you pull the ace of spades out. Well, what's the number? 0619 is the last four numbers. Woohoo! Hold on here. Let's do a double audit here. You want to check this here?
Double audit, okay.
Yeah. You got to pick a card.
Do the head thing up here, you know, back in the...
Yeah, Kreska. The amazing Kreska.
Actually, I could see the card. Hey, you spades, I'm so excited.
You got closer than I am. Thank you, Kathy. Now we'll have Tom Rhodes come up and introduce her Guest speaker. You're up. Don, you're up.
I have never met a monorail driver, ever. That would have been a job I could have handled. I would have never gotten lost. So, okay, this is a very lucky, fun day for me in the fact that this young man, I've only known him for 50 years. And he came to our company, or our group actually, like the other two sons, and then they had left their present job and said, you know, I'm tired of that job. Dad, can I come work with you for a little while I find a real job? Sure. Well, he sold a house and he went, oh my gosh, I think I found my job. So it has been so much fun working with Dan and his two brothers in this business. And I can tell you, Dan's a Capricorn, which means he's super detailed, he's super organized, he's very, very smart, as you can tell from the write-up there. And he treats, I can tell you, he treats his client like solid gold, because I've witnessed that, and he continues to do that. He and his family have gone to Africa for, Dan said, 5 years as a missionary trip. And they visit a group of kids that, are they in sort of camp going on or something like that? Yeah, but he's been there for 5 years and they do a great job. Let me tell you one quick story and then I'll get off of here. But Tom's giving me this already. You're out of there. Okay, semi-quick story. I taught Sunday school at the Presbyterian Church for, gosh, about 16, 17 years. And Dan and his group of 8th graders I taught, and I had said when we'd leave and headed home, I said, Dan, why don't you date Julie Giddens? She is so cute. She's so smart. Oh, Dad, come on. We don't, you know, I'm not interested. So that summer, we went down to Camp Longhorn on Parents' Weekend, or Parents' Day, to pick them up. And he was a Marine, which meant they were dressed in fatigues, and they were going through some sort of exercise. And Julie, the girl I'm talking about, was standing right behind us. And they were going through some sort of routine, and they introduced Dan, and this voice behind me said, "Isn't he adorable?" Dan doesn't want to hear this. I turned around and said, I looked at Suzanne and said, oh my gosh, that's Julie. And so I'd like to introduce to you Dan Rhodes, better known as Mr. Adorable.
Thank you. The best part of the end of that story is we started dating summer after 8th grade. Never broke up, married 28 years, be 29 this August, and have 4 kids. So somebody has good vision, apparently, and can map that out. So I'm looking, is that clicker up here? Oh, there it is under my book. Sorry about that. I'm honored and privileged to be here today to talk a little bit about the real estate market. Certainly, my role here, or my speech, is going to be geared towards the residential side of things. Commercial, we don't really, interact with. It's a different beast, different game altogether. So what I'm talking about is going to be specific to the residential side. But I thought I'd just start with kind of giving some current market trends and highlights. And some of these will be, I guess this screen is a lot better, easier to see than that smaller one. The bigger one's out of commission today over here. But kind of where we are in just a snapshot of what's going on. We went into COVID with very low inventory, and we have maintained that even further down than what is a healthy balance. So our inventory and our supply of available homes right now is extremely low. We'll talk about that and get into some numbers about that. We are seeing multiple offer scenarios as a result with, buyers, pent-up demand is there, buyers looking for the right property and jumping and being in a position to move when they see something come up. A colleague in a networking group yesterday I was talking with submitted 5 offers in the past week, and every one of them was multiple offer scenarios. So again, that's all in Park City's North Dallas, East Dallas areas, and that's kind of the focus of what I'll talk about a little bit today. Demand remains strong, but there are lots of buyers who are sitting and waiting. They don't have a sense of urgency. They're watching the market. They're wanting to see what happens with interest rates, and certainly they are willing to jump, but it's if 99 out of 100 of their criteria is met versus a smaller. They're not willing to sacrifice, in other words. Again, there are people who have life changes, life events that are forced to move, but there is a lot of pent-up demand out there that is watching and waiting and willing to do it, but only on the right scenario. So, they're under 3 to 4% in interest rate at their current house, their current mortgage, and so they're looking at jumping to 7 or higher on an interest rate, but they will do it only for the perfect house. And as a result of the lack of inventory, you've got a lot of folks who have remodeled. They just said, I'm going to stay put, I'm going to put some money back into the house, remodel, make the house better, improve things where they are. And then finally, we are seeing a great deal still of steady inflow from out of state. So the people are still coming here. They came in droves during COVID with lockdown restrictions that were kind of out there on the extreme category of things in California, New York, Colorado, Chicago, even internationally as well, where they couldn't even leave outside their house without signing up people who they were going to be with. Australia was that example. So we've seen the big growth, big DFW, the whole Metroplex area led the country in net growth in 2023 of 152 net new residents, which is pretty impressive. And that, of course, has added a DFW population surpassing 8 million people. It's kind of hard to think about, but that, of course, is the whole Metroplex area. What we're seeing more on the seller side of the fence is 2 types of sellers that are out there. There are sellers who kind of can see that the supply is low, demand is high, and they're looking at it as an opportunity to test premium pricing. And sometimes they're throwing prices out there, or properties out there at prices that are quite high to see if they can get somebody who's desperate, somebody who wants to buy something off market, and have a private sale. There's reasons for that people do that. One, they don't want people in their area, friends, family, whatever, to know what they're doing, just from a privacy standpoint and what they're buying. Secondly, there's obviously tax incentives and tax savings if it remains off market, where the Central Appraisal District doesn't have knowledge of what it actually trades for. So you've got that side of the fence, and then you've got other sellers who are saying, don't share this with anybody, keep it tight-lipped until we're ready to throw it out there to the whole market and kind of let a feeding frenzy, if that can happen, begin. So there's really a dichotomy on the types of sellers that are out there. We have seen a significant increase in the number of high-end luxury sales, 5 million and up, which is wild, and some of the prices that are out there are certainly in double-digit millions. There's a significant increase in the number of cash buyers. Obviously, interest rates being higher has pushed a lot of people to buy down their mortgage payment with putting more cash down, or certainly paying all cash. And then we talked about the steady rise in off-market transactions. That has increased. And there has been a decrease in overall transactions, though. The trend has been not enough inventory. There's one winner when there's multiple offers, and so a lot of people are standing around going, okay, I got to wait till the next opportunity. So overall transactions have dipped down. I've got some charts in here. We'll look at that. And then finally, the sales activity is very heavily connected to the academic calendar in marketplaces that we work. North Dallas, East Dallas, Park Cities, Preston Hollow, and surrounding areas, and even probably suburbs too. And that's because people are moving, obviously, when school, if they've got families, they're moving in times where the school is out. It's not a distraction or disruption to the family. The problem with that is a lot of relo buyers come here and they see our market starts in the spring for that. Their markets start in the summer. So by the summertime here, July, it's hot, July 4th, people are checking out here, they're doing other things. they're taking, if their house hasn't sold, they're taking it off the market. If buyers come from out of town and they're coming in July and August, it's too late. They need to be coming in March and April and May. So something to think about for them. This will have a little bit of a snapshot of the park cities. So we look at things when we study the market and trends. We look at kind of what's historically been the case and what is happening in relation to that. So months of inventory is a good indicator of your supply. It's how many houses, if you're selling every house on the market, how long would that take based upon days on market and the number of transactions that are happening in a month. Typical good, healthy supply is 5 to 6 months. You want 5 to 6 months of houses on the market at any given time. Right now we're at 2 to 3. And in some markets, it could even be slightly below 2. East Dallas is probably 1.8 months worth of inventory. Actively listed properties. When we started in 2008, when I started in 2008 and joined, market was vastly different, obviously. Economic factors were a big reason why, but we had over 1,200 homes in areas that we work. We had probably 600 or 700 in the park cities. We had actually probably had 1,500 homes plus on the market. Right now we have 300 in the park city. I'm sorry, we have 75 in the park cities. So again, this is actively listed, single family, condos, townhomes, everything in the park cities. Healthy market is 300 to 350 maybe. So you can see where things are. Days on market obviously has gone down. Average is 60 to 70 days on market. We're about a month. Number of solds, you can see 40, 45, 55 per month. Again, this is Park City's snapshot only. We're 20 to 30 a month. Sales price to list price, good indicator of how much negotiation is happening on a particular property. About 5 to 6% is pretty normal historically, and that's shortened to about 2 to 3%. Average price per square foot, big changes there. And we'll go through some of that in some other markets too. But, historically things were clipping along, and I've got some charts, but, when you jump from 300 to 650 or more a square foot, we're not at California prices where it's 2,000 or 2,500 a square foot. Imagine that. I don't think we'll get there, but it's crazy to see the change in what's happening. Off-market transactions have been big, obviously grown from about 15% to about 35%. So, a third of what's selling is not going out there in MLS, is not going out there to Zillows and Realtor.coms and things like that. And then the peak of activity is still the same. We have cycles that run from the spring market and then in the fall and the summer and end of year is dead. So these are going to be just trends. I'm not trying to look at numbers specifically, but this will show some good trends. And it's kind of hard to see on this size, but the vertical line that's kind of about 2/3 or 3/4 of the way down is where COVID hit. So you can see the trend is pretty steady, and then all of a sudden once COVID hit, in the last quarter of the slide on all of these, it kind of sent things haywire. But the trends are the same no matter if you're looking at the park cities or East Dallas or North Dallas. And what this shows, the top one is sales price. So the average sales price that was averaging around $1.5 million maybe in the park cities is now closer to $2.5 million. The bottom slide showing the number of solds. So what you're seeing there, the up cycle is the spring market. The down cycles are the end of the year and the summer cycle. So you can see it's very seasonal in what it's doing relative to the academic calendar and times of year. And then, of course, when COVID hit, the inventory just, number of solds went way down on the far end of that one. This is showing trends from the Park Cities price per square foot, and the bottom, the days on market. And again, this goes back, the very beginning is summer of 2008. So that gives you some reference, 2008 to February 2024. So again, on the days on market and price per square foot, again, you can see the rise on the price per square foot. Pretty steady climb, and then all of a sudden COVID hit, shortage of inventory, and the climb has gotten a lot steeper. Bottom is days on market. Again, that's gone from 60 days average to 30. You can see the top, the bottom chart at the very early stage when it was over 100 days was 2009. I don't know if y'all remember that, 2009. So, and then this one's going to show sales price to list price. Again, it's kind of remained steady a little bit. COVID sent it a little bit haywire. You had a lot of multiple offers and went above asking price there with that big peak, and then the amounts of inventory at the bottom. So what's selling? We'll look at that a little bit. There's been some, talk about high-end luxury sales. There's been a lot of big movement. Again, California buyers, cash buyers. There's been a lot of sales that have topped double digits. And this is kind of what's on the market. On the left-hand side for 2023 in Highland Park, and the right side is off market. So you can see some big sales, 13, 14 million. There's been, obviously some of the off-market ones were even higher. University Park's the same way. You've got sales upwards of almost 20 million, and then some off-market stuff as well. What's currently on the market from a higher price luxury market type product? You've got I picked the 4 highest ones in 2 in the Park Cities, 1 in East Dallas and 1 in North Dallas. And you can just see what those prices are. Asking prices range from 13.5 basically to 27 million. And then the prices per square foot that they're asking is kind of interesting, over 1,000 a square foot to almost 1,600 a square foot. The bottom one is on like 4.5 acres, so you do get a big increase there with the land and all of that. But interesting to kind of see that. Same trends for North Dallas. Again, just put them in a chart. You've got COVID threw things off there, the 3/4 of the way through, but the trends remain the same. Steady incline and then a sharp increase there when COVID hit. This is North Dallas. Price per square foot, it's pushing about 400 almost a square foot on average. These are averages, okay? Days on market, 60 is the bottom number there. So it's a little bit behind. Again, sales price to list price, 97%. Months of inventory is 3.5 in North Dallas right now. And East Dallas is even tighter. So East Dallas has gone gangbusters. I think there's a lot of people who have come to Dallas and see the outdoor recreation aspect of White Rock Lake, the trails, old established neighborhood, mature landscaping and trees, and somewhat more affordable compared to some of the other areas, and they've just flocked to those areas. And East Dallas is booming right now. Again, average price is around a little under $1 million, $925,000. And your number of solds is about 50 or 60 a month. And then your price per square foot there is pushing 400 as well. So it's gone up. Days on market is right at 30 days there on the bottom. And then again, your sales price to list price is even tighter, and your months of inventory is less than 2 months, which is super tight. So what are inflation and interest rates doing? This chart on the left is going to track your interest rate. So you can see back in January of 2023, it was pushing around 6%, peaked around 7.8%. There at the peak, and is right now around 7. We're seeing some buyers get rates below 7, depending upon the lender. And there are a lot of mortgage-backed private banking where they've got security accounts, more stock accounts, retirement accounts. They're getting some advantages there with certain lenders, but generally speaking, it's about 7%. The inflation on the right is an interesting look. It's tracking the consumer price index, where you've got 3.1 currently. You can see the peak there in the summer was pushing almost 9%. Again, inflation at 9%. The white line is tracking the core price index, which is basically all items except food and energy. So you can see where those stack up against the whole of inflation. So kind of interesting, but inflation's clearly coming down. The question is, how is the Fed, how are the monetary decisions made going to impact that relative to interest rates? So I've got some predictions at the end on what I think, but I think they're going to continue, especially with an election year, to try to get those further down to something a little bit more reasonable. This tracks, on the left-hand side, cash buyers. So you can see from the percentage of U.S. cash buyers right now is at 32%. So this is national stats. Of all the deals done, almost a third of them are all cash across the country. That's pretty wild to think about. Again, prices across the country are, average a lot less than some of these markets we average here, but on average, if you've got a third of the people doing cash, they're not liking the interest rates out there, so they're putting more down. The slide on the right is tracking the appreciation. So pretty interesting. If you've got a property in the last year or so, it's appreciated 5%. Again, these are national stats. But if you look at it back to 40 years ago, it's tracking it at over 147%. It's an interesting way to just think about, okay, how do you measure the value of a house as you hold on to it and building wealth through the appreciation side? Again, inflation is over that time is 142%, but when you've got a house that's appreciated on average 240%, you can see the value of holding on to real estate. All right, you guys have probably heard about the NAR class action settlement and the lawsuit that's happened in our industry. What is it, and this kind of what are the impacts of it? This slide talks about kind of what is it. It's a $418 million settlement paid out over 4 years, resolves kind of liability from the members of NAR, National Association of Realtors, in the state and territorial local MLS boards, realtor associations, and brokerages. It does not absolve the larger brokerages yet. So there's still some lawsuits that are out there with some of the bigger brokerages that have volume greater than $2 billion. So Compass that we're with is one of those. I got an email this morning that said there was a settlement with Compass. Don't know all the details yet, but yes, there are still some lawsuits out there. So what does it say? It basically says that no more broker compensation for the buyer side can be posted in MLS. And it doesn't mean that seller concessions can't be posted, but the broker compensation cannot be posted. It certainly can still happen and probably will. MLS agents working with buyers are now required to have a buyer's rep agreement before they show properties. I think that's a very good thing in our industry. What's happened in the past is buyers would call on properties or called an agent, called this agent over here, and they're working with multiple agents, and it gets confusing sometimes as to who's representing whom in those scenarios. So now buyers will be protected with a buyer's agent rep, and agents will be protected in that. So that's a very positive thing. Clearly, the ruling has to be approved by the courts, and that will take some time, but they are working on that and supposed to go into effect mid-July of 2024. So the whole point of the lawsuit was to try to overcome. It was brought about by some sellers who thought there was colluding going on and thought that there was steering going on. Steering meaning agents directing clients to particular properties that only had higher brokerage commissions paid to their side. So that was the whole point of the lawsuit. So what's going to happen out of that? Nobody really knows, right? Time will tell. But there are clearly going to be some impacts. I think, and again, these are just kind of my thoughts and my predictions, but I think Clearly, there'll be some reclassification of commission. I don't think commissions are going away. Certainly, people don't work for free. Commissions have always been negotiable. They still will be. Commissions for the buyer side will just be a little bit more confusing around initially or until it's all worked out, because they're a lot less transparent now, and that's the problem. So what you see is seller concessions happening. You'll see agents trying to figure out what another agent is charging, because it's not posted anywhere where we can see it. MLS used to have a standard field of, hey, you bring a buyer to this property, the listing side's going to pay you X%, right? Now it's not going to be posted. So it's going to be a little bit gray, it's going to be ambiguous, and it's going to put more work on us trying to figure out, okay, listing agent, you know, what are you charging? Say I have a buyer who comes into town or wants to see 10 properties. I got to call all those agents and find out what they're offering in cooperative compensation, and then I got to have real conversations with my buyer about how am I going to get paid through my buyer rep agreement that I already have in place, right? So it's just going to be a little bit more confusing. The other kicker is how comps are going to be generated, or how's an appraiser going to know the true cost of a house? They're going to see a price that's sold in MLS. Agents will see the same thing, but how do we know what the buyer really paid to buy that property? In other words, the buyer paid this price, but he also paid the commission if the seller didn't offer cooperative compensation. So it's going to get a little bit confusing to work through those kinks and iron that out. I think it's limiting the buyer pool for a lot of potential properties. The real people that they wanted to help through this lawsuit were first-time home buyers, FHA buyers, lower price point buyers, to make it more affordable for people to buy a house. Because prices, obviously you could see the charts before, the prices have increased. Well, those are the people who are going to be hurting, because those are the people who can't bring cash to the table. They can't have a down payment on their house plus pay their buyer's agent. Right now, it's wrapped into what they're financing, and it's kind of rolled into the cost of the loan and doing the deal. But if they have to come out of pocket for that, how's that going to work? So I think it's limiting the pool for potential buyers for a seller, and certainly it's limiting inventory for buyers. Because what's going to have to happen probably is buyer's agents are going to have to turn around and say, okay, new buyer that I'm working with, are you only wanting to look at properties that are offering cooperative compensation, or do you want to look at both? In other words, where do you fall in what you can afford? So I think they really lose in the end. Again, with the trend of property selling off MLS, I think that will continue to increase. You know, we've always worked with buyers representing themselves. We don't have a problem as agents doing that if they know what they're doing. When they don't, it makes it a lot more challenging, and I think you'll see some sellers who don't want to work with some buyers if they don't know what they're doing. Examples of that are they don't send all the forms and documentation that are required by state or federal disclosures and all the forms that are required. They don't complete the forms exactly in full, and contract terms often are left blank. They'll submit a contract with just an offer price and a closing date, but none of the real nitty-gritty that goes along with that that's important to both sides and very much so impacts themselves as a buyer, but certainly the seller side, are incomplete. So it just becomes a risk for the seller to, if you have a scenario like that, work with someone who doesn't know exactly how the process works and is managing that process. There's a lot of dates, there's a lot of deadlines and milestones that have to be met, and so if you're trying to do that on your own and you don't know what you're doing, that's not a good thing. So I think the other potential risk too, in this, again, market's fast right now, market's hot in most areas. If you have a buyer who's representing themselves, trying to submit forms, and they don't have it fully complete, they don't have all the terms listed, they don't have the documents, their offer is going to get set aside because things are moving fast. We've got 10 offers on the table, and you've got an offer over here that doesn't include all the information. If you're representing yourself or don't know what you're doing, the seller's going to move to these offers that are more complete. Okay? There's just less risk for the seller. So certainly it has a lot to play out when and if it goes into effect in the summer, but commissions aren't going away. People can't work for free. It's just going to be kind of reclassified and, you know, ironed out on how that's going to be paid out and where it can be posted, because it can't be an MLS. So something to think about. Yeah, this is my last slide, and then we'll go to questions. So I think interest rates will, in the short term, go below 7. I think they'll go down in the 6 to 6.5%. Maybe in the not by the election time, but maybe in the next year or so. And then I think they'll settle down long term in the 5.5 range. I don't think we'll ever see the 3%, 4%, or at least not for a long time, or even sub 3. I was talking with someone and others that I know who have interest rates locked in on 30-year fixed, you know, under 3%, which is like free money. I think supply will remain tight with the inventory levels below a healthy balance. And I think if we do get an adjustment down in interest rates, that will compound the issue with the supply, because I think a lot of buyers sitting on the fence will jump in the market and turn around and have a lot more buyers, you know, rebounding back in and turning around and trying to buy something. So that could exponentially compound things. I think we've talked, again, we don't do commercial, but we were talking with some bankers who were talking about some of the commercial areas that were hurting, and as a result, lenders who lend on deals both residentially and commercially, they're tightening up some of their underwriting requirements, which could make the residential side to get a loan even harder if you don't have good documentation, obviously good income and all of that. North Park Mall was a recent refinance. I thought about that as the commercial side that I saw on the news, which was pretty interesting, being that we're here in North Park. They did a $650 million mortgage refinance where they took out the 487 plus of that million was in debt, and then they took cash equity out of 140 almost $1 million. So nice to be those owners. Good little payday. Cash is still king. Certainly, it provides a level of comfort in a deal for the seller. Sellers, you know, obviously proof of funds, bank letters, those types of things, but cash is still, it irons out and eliminates a lot of risk to sellers in the lending timeline and the lending process and the underwriting appraisals and things like that. So it is still king. And I think off-market transactions will climb. Right now they're about a third. I think they'll go even higher to about 45%. I think they'll stay under half, but 40 to 45% of all, again, residential in areas where we work, I think will be pushing that. So it's just an interesting time, a lot going on, a lot to see, obviously what happens and how it plays out. But with that, I've got time for some questions, I think. Let's go, Hurt. She got jumped up first, and then we'll come over to you.
Y'all work really hard. So, how many houses on average do you usually show before someone makes a decision?
You know, it really depends. We have clients that we'll work with and show a handful, and then we'll have clients that we work with for over a year. I mean, 100 plus houses, and then they say, I'm going to rent, and you don't get paid pennies, which is, it works. It works out. You know, sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard, but it can be, you know, it can be a lot of houses. It can be 3-digit. I mean, I've got a client right now I worked with for a year and a half. I showed him a house this morning, and you know, we've lost out on some, so it's not like they're dragging their feet or not doing what the due diligence that they want to do. But when you submit a good offer and it's a competitive market, sometimes you don't win, and you just got to kind of, as my dad has always said, there's a better deal around the corner, right? There's always a better house. There's a better deal. So that's a good question, though. But it's true. We often can work a long time without.
Hi, Dan. Thanks for coming.
Sure.
You've given us a lot of interesting statistics. I'm referring to a National Association of Realtors. 1 in 2 homes in Tarrant County have been bought by institutional buyers. That refers to companies that own over 100 homes. The figure in Texas is 28%. The figure in Dallas County is 43%. Denton County 39% and 34%. My question to you is, can the market sustain this level of institutional buying to such that a traditional home buyer has any chance of owning a home?
It makes it a lot harder. So the institutional investors are people who buy the properties to hold on to those for renting. And yeah, when you're competing with a giant behemoth company that's paying cash and coming in, usually they're doing rehabs on a lot of those properties, so they're less concerned about an inspection and all those details versus a regular end user buyer would be. So they come in and it's smoother for the seller maybe to deal with those types of people. It's hard, and yes, we have a housing and inventory shortage across the board. So whether you look at luxury, you're looking at mid-tier or affordable housing, the DFW area, again, I don't know all the markets, but in sub-markets that we work, it's harder. It's going to make it harder for an end user if they're competing with that.
Nate, one thing, I read this morning that Governor Abbott wants to say that those type of buyers cannot make an offer prior to 30 days after the home has been on the market, at least 30 days.
Yes.
Did you see that? It came out this morning?
Yeah, they're trying to do some legislation around that to limit. Yeah. Yes. It might, for sure.
So, thank you for coming, by
Sure.
the way. Towards that end, it seems like the investor buyer, the institutional buyer, started during COVID, when at the same time that you saw the influx. So I assume they're looking at the demographics and the future demographics that caused them to come to this market.
Yes, what they're looking at is the influx of people, the lack of housing, and so they're either looking to flip these or they're looking to hold on to them and get rentals. What's happening is because people can't find what they want to buy on the buy side, they're having to turn around and lease, and so rental rates have increased as well.
So which leads to the second part of my question, and in the Park Cities market in particular, I mean, I've heard numbers for newer houses or redone houses at $25,000 a month on rental rates.
Yeah, so I'll tell you,
I didn't see that.
Absolutely that's the case. There are, it used to be about $1.50 a square foot, maybe up to $2 a square foot rental rate. Again, depending upon the condition, finish out of the house and size and things like that. In the Park Cities, it's $3.50 a square foot. So if you got a 5,000 square foot house, 6,000 square foot house, those renters can be anyone from relos that can't find something. The corporate is maybe supplementing their rent short term, paying for that. They can be people who are remodeling for a year, building for a year, professionals who maybe already live in the area, Preston Hollow, Park Cities, East Dallas, who need a place to land while they build. Yeah, they're a year, maybe 2 years before they buy, something like that. They're not going to stay 5-10 years typically.
Dan, make a quick comment about what the market's going to look like when the soccer teams come here.
Oh gosh, he's talking about the World Cup event. So you have influx of people from all over the world, and they're offering. There's talk already of the World Cup's coming in 2026 to Dallas. We're going to have 9 games here, I believe. And they're talking about we're in a house for 150, 200,000 for the month, because they're going to be nothing if these people are following their team or if they're coming to a particular deal. So furnished houses like that get a premium, like super short term. It's like a unicorn, right? There's, I need a furnished house for a month or 2 months while I travel around and go to different games or stay here in Dallas and just watch the games here. So there's opportunities if you're willing to go live at, sister or brother's house that you can rent out your house. So
and that might cover the damages.
it might, just might. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I'm president of your mother's fan club,
Okay. Love that.
Okay, my question is contractors. We've had contractors come to our house and want to buy our house, and the prices have been very good on their offers, but there's no place for us to move to.
Yeah. That's part of the lockup of inventory. It's paralyzed because it hasn't unraveled. It goes to, his question over there. It's a problem. It's a problem. We need, and I'm working with clients who are buyers, but yet they don't have to sell before they buy, some of them, so they can turn around if they find the right deal. That will unravel some of that. But again, it's different price points. It's different product for different buyer profiles. So we have a shortage for sure. Can't speak to that.
Yeah, as an anecdote to the cost to rent, I can just give you an idea to keep everything in perspective. Different markets, like California versus here.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, like 5 years ago, high-end apartments in LA, very common, $8 a foot.
Yeah.
Think about that. That's $8,000 for 1,000 square foot.
Yeah.
I know what's happening in the park cities, like for condos and leasing, and I've seen that just personally, but and also anecdotally to renting your house out. I had a friend of mine, her parents in Atlanta during the '96 Olympics.
Yeah.
$25,000 a month
Yeah.
in '96. So it's something that people are doing, and you are seeing. I've heard some investors are looking to cash in on that
Yeah,
too.
and usually people who are doing that aren't your average renter. I mean, sometimes they're corporations who are paying for their executives to go experience this monumental one every 4-year type event, Olympics or World Cup or whatever. So it's not, every Joe, but certainly you never know.
And I have one other question. You mentioned, there are other forms of financing, clearly, and as we know, the interest rates are such that every 25 basis points is going to open the market that much more.
Yes.
But you mentioned the alternative financing, like a lot of these higher-end homes, these people here have greater wealth. They can do the cash, or they have the ability to get almost like a margin account against their securities, and you're seeing interest rates sometimes just a couple hundred basis
So
points
I've got a
above.
client right now has a home under contract, and they're coming from New York. They've been here for 2 years now renting, kind of getting the lay of the land, kept their place in New York. He's in the financial services world, and he has accounts with Morgan Stanley. So he's in their private banking, Morgan Stanley, and he's getting about 6.
Yeah.
So if the market interest rate right now is 7.125, he's getting 6.
Is he one of the? He's not one of these. He's Morgan Stanley, because I know Goldman's bringing a bunch of guys here too.
Goldman is finishing out their office down near Victory Tower, Victory Place, or American Airlines Center. They are bringing about 5,000 people here. It's going to initially be about 2,500 in 2026, 2027. And of those 2,500, we've heard that about 60% of them will be making $750,000 or more.
Or more, yeah.
So they're going to be looking for higher-end homes, so that's going to...
And country clubs and everything else.
Yeah. And schools.
Yeah.
It's going to compound everything.
And this is just the nature of what's happening here in Dallas. And we were talking earlier, Dallas Forward is their comprehensive plan for housing. And you ought to look into that, because it's going to affect every neighborhood, Preston Hollow, not the Park Cities. I live in Lakewood, and they're talking about they want to bring a greater density, not affordable housing, but just greater density. So they're talking about proposing a developer could take a single-family lot and put up 2 duplexes or quadplexes on it inside of a single-family home neighborhood.
It's changing zoning.
And it's codifying different things. So it just shows you the lack of inventory.
It's a problem.
It's nuts what's going on.
Yeah.
Hey, Dan, we
Yeah,
appreciate
thank
it.
you, thank you.
A book in your honor will be placed in Shane Elementary for speaking today. Appreciate it. Mary Ann will come do our 4-way test.
Will you all join me in the 4-way test? Of the things we think, say, or do, first, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
And everyone, last little note, next week we do not have a meeting for Easter holidays.